In the UK at the moment, the business environment's pretty tough. We have a major deficit in terms of our public spending. So 2011 will see massive cuts in public spending, which will have a significant bounce back effect on the private sector. That follows on from the recession that the private sector went through since 2008. So things are still looking as though they're going to be a tough year. However, there are a lot of companies now who are seeing the benefit of actually developing the people they have and the recognition of the fact that they need to make the best of the people they've got in place. They won't be able to recruit additional people. They need to do what they can with what they've got, and that means that they're seeking to develop them much further than they have perhaps before. Recruitment is the major one. No one's recruiting right now, or if they are, they're only recruiting in singles rather than tens or hundreds, as they have done in the past. That's making the environment very difficult. There are a lot of very good people unemployed. A single job can generate thousands of job applications. So the ability to pick the right person from that number of people is becoming absolutely critical for companies. In terms of other challenges, companies, again, because they're not being allowed to recruit internally, are having to maximize the productivity they can from the people they already have on board, which means the challenges that they didn't used to have to face because they could lose people and re-recruit, they now have to face them head on. So development and getting the maximum out of the people they have is absolutely critical. Certainly in terms of recruitment, assessments, helping them to find the right person every time, it's absolutely critical to them now. They can no longer afford to make the kinds of mistakes that they could make when turnover was high. In addition to no one recruiting, no one's leaving. No one's giving up a safe job to actually end up in the job market when there's nowhere to go. So they really do need to do that, and the ability to actually select what success looks like and then recruit against that is critical for them. A lot of the most charismatic leaders, strangely enough, are very quiet. They're the people that seem to work in the background. In business terms, certainly, I would say there's a gentleman by the name of Sir Terry Leahy, who is the CEO for the time being of a large supermarket group called Tesco. And he has quietly brought them from being around third in line and very long way behind his competitors to being the top supermarket chain in the UK. He's an absolutely phenomenal guy in terms of his ability to take people where he wants them to go willingly. And to me, that's one of the key characteristics of a great leader, is the ability to inspire people to want what you want. And he's done that very, very well. And yet his public face is very, very low profile. You rarely see him, you rarely have him interviewed. He just clearly has that charisma that allows him to take his people on. I think probably I look a little bit back to history. One of the greatest leaders that I remember, not personally, but through recent history, is Winston Churchill, who was very much a man of his time, who was able to, during the war years, take on the country into a situation which was dire for us and actually bring us out at the other side and inspire people along the way again to do the things that were needed to be done to actually win the Second World War. And yet, as a peacetime Prime Minister, he failed abysmally, so he was very much a man of his time. He was in the right place at the right time to do what was necessary. I think it's a well-known phrase in our industry that are leaders born or are they made? And there's a very strong perception that leaders are born, so if you're not born with that innate capability, you don't have it and you never will. The reality is most of what you learn is actually a management skill. So people can be taught a lot of what they need to lead well if they're open enough to actually take that on board. It does go against the grain for a lot of traditional managers who believe that the way of getting the most out of the people is the whip rather than using the incentive. But I believe that very much if they can identify those characteristics that they need and the level that they're at right now, they can always improve, they can always be better, and they can become great leaders themselves. Assessments will tell them where they are today. It'll create the gap as to where they need to be a great leader and allow them to see exactly what they need to do to plug that gap.